Welcome to Rob on Holiday. This is our first morning in the city of Seville. Well, actually, it's not really the first morning because 6 years ago we came to Seville on our very first city break. And now we've come back in 2024 to see whether our memories stack up to the reality. And already we're just standing here with the Giralda and the Cathedral behind us, and we're just blown away all over again. So join us as we go on a city guide to the city of Seville. Seville is the capital and largest city in the southern Spanish region of Andalusia. Seville has everything you could want in a city break destination, from stunning Mudéjar architecture to luscious parks and gardens and more. In this video, I'm going to try to show you why Seville is the best city to visit in all of Europe, by taking you along with us for our 2-day trip to the city in December. The easiest way to get to Seville is to fly to Seville Airport, which is just a 20-minute taxi ride from the city centre. We did this on our first trip, but this time around we were visiting Seville as part of a longer trip to Andalusia. So we arrived by train at Seville Santa Justa station. From there, it's just a 10 to 15 minute taxi ride to the centre. For this trip, we stayed at the Hotel Rey Alfonso X, a 4-star hotel at the heart of the Barrio Santa Cruz. This hotel is the perfect base for any visit to Seville, offering comfortable rooms, a delicious buffet breakfast, and all within walking distance of most of the city's major tourist attractions. We arrived in Seville later on in the evening after a tiring day at the Alhambra, so we enjoyed a relaxing meal at La Gallina Bianca Italian restaurant before getting an early night. But before bed we decided to take advantage of one of the best perks of our hotel. So, our first night in Seville, we're staying at the Hotel Rey Alfonso X, and what about this? You've got a rooftop bar, you can actually see an illuminated Giralda. What a great introduction to Seville. The next morning we woke up early to make the most of our short time in the city. The first major attraction on our list for the day was Seville Cathedral, which doesn't open until 10:45 on a Saturday, so first we headed down to the river to see some of Seville's smaller highlights. Now behind me is the Maestranza, which is the Bullring here in Seville. Now I've got to say that I don't necessarily agree with bullfighting. It's cruel to animals. I like animals, but you have to appreciate the significance to Spanish history. But from an architectural point of view, it's a fantastic building. Completed in the 18th century, it holds 12,000 people. Now, when we were last here in Seville 6 years ago, we actually went on a tour of the Bullring, and it's something I really recommend. You get to go in the bullfighting museum and look around inside, and then at the end of the tour you get to walk out onto the arena floor, stand on the red clay and look around the arena. It is a superb experience. Like I say, we did it last time and we're going to drop some photos and videos in here so you can see what it's like. I'm standing by the Guadalquivir River here in Seville, and on the other side, that area there you can see is the Triana district, and the reason it's significant is that's where flamenco started. Behind me is the Torre del Oro, or the Tower of Gold. It was built in the 13th century as a watchtower along the Guadalquivir River here. It actually houses a naval museum, but to be honest, we've been in it before. It's not really that great. It's something you can skip. I think it's one of those monuments that you walk past it and just admire it from the outside, and that's good enough. After walking past the Torre del Oro, we walked to the halfway point of the Puente San Telmo for great views of the tower and the river. As the cathedral's opening time grew closer, we walked back to the centre via Puerta Jerez to see Hispanis Fountain and the Hotel Alfonso XIII. This luxury 5-star hotel is well out of our price range, but it's worth walking past during your time in Seville as the building itself is beautiful. We got in line for the cathedral around 5 minutes before opening. The entrance is located at the foot of the Giralda in Plaza Virgen de los Reyes. There are 2 lines, one for people with tickets and another for those without. Seville Cathedral is the largest Gothic cathedral in the world.
It has a rather unique, almost square-shaped structure derived from the mosque that used to sit on the site. Inside, the sheer scale of the building becomes truly apparent. Highlights of the visit include the Retablo Mayor, the 66-foot high, 60-foot wide golden altar at the centre of the building, and the tomb of explorer Christopher Columbus. Tickets for Seville Cathedral cost €13 for adults when bought online and are free for under 13s.
Standing in the orange courtyard here, which is part of Seville Cathedral, and the cathedral is one of the crown jewels of Seville. The cathedral was completed in the 16th century and it was built on the site, the former site of the Grand Mosque. And when it was completed, it was actually the largest cathedral in the world, and even today it stands at the third largest by volume, 500,000 cubic metres. It really is a cavernous space inside. It's absolutely fabulous, a fantastic ornate gold altar, and it actually contains the tomb of Christopher Columbus.
The orange courtyard is another highlight of your visit to the cathedral, and one of the best places to view the building's stunning architecture and the Giralda. After exploring the cathedral, it was time to head up the Giralda. The Giralda is a 103-metre tall bell tower and is the only surviving element of the former mosque. The climb up the Giralda is unique as there are no stairs inside the tower. Instead, you make your way to the top via 35 ramps, which were originally installed to allow horses to make the climb.
So we've reached the top of the Giralda. Now, as you may have seen on the video, it's a straight staircase, or straight stairwell if you like. There's no steps, it's just a slope that goes all the way up, and I actually think it makes it easier to walk up. You don't get quite as tired as if they were traditional steps. Each corner of the tower as you walk up has a number on it, and I'll be honest, I can't remember the last number. I think it was about 34 or 35, so it's good. You're going up, you know you're getting near the top. And there's views from the top are absolutely spectacular. You can see in all directions, and it's interesting seeing all the domes and churches around the city. Well worth a climb. It's included in your cathedral entry fee. Well, let's talk about La Giralda, the tower you can see behind me. Yes, of course, today it's part of Seville Cathedral, but it was actually part of the original mosque that stood on this site well before the cathedral was built. And the actual building itself was based on the famous Koutoubaya minaret in Marrakesh, Morocco. You can see there the main part of the tower is very Islamic looking, and the bell tower at the top, the section, the belfry, was only added during the Renaissance period. From a personal point of view, this is one of my favourite monuments in Seville. Well, not alone Seville, the whole of Spain or even Europe. It is such a fabulous sight. Of course, the great thing with the climate here in Andalusia, Seville, it's sunny most of the time. You can see the sun bouncing off the bricks there. It makes it look spectacular. I actually think it must have been cleaned up very slightly since the last time we were here, because it always looks good, but it looks especially good now on this visit. So, you know, if you're going to come to Seville, you're going to see the cathedral, you're going to want to see the Giralda, you'll probably see it everywhere anyway. And it also looks great when the spotlights are on it at night, overlooking the square here. Just an absolutely top-class monument.
After a quick lunch at the 100 Montaditos, a sandwich bar, we hopped in a taxi over to another must-see Seville attraction, Parque María Luisa. You can walk from the centre in about 15 minutes, but taxis are pretty cheap in Seville, so we decided to save our legs for exploring the park. Before entering the park, there were a few buildings that we wanted to explore outside the gates.
Now, the next set of buildings we're going to show in Seville might not be of interest to everybody, but I love things like this. Now, you may have heard of world's fairs and expositions. In 1929, the Iberian-American Exposition was held in Seville, and they built lots of pavilions to represent all the countries that were part of the celebrations, and it was all in aid of all countries that had historical ties to Spain. They were trying to promote trade and friendliness between these countries. So although lots of the pavilions have been demolished, we are nearly 100 years later, and there's still about 17 buildings that still exist. So behind me, for example, you can see the Mexican pavilion. The Colombian pavilion is really impressive, as is the Moroccan pavilion. All these buildings are still standing. You can still see them in and around the area around Parque María Luisa. As I say, what's really impressive is, if you think The Eiffel Tower, for example, was built for the World's Fair in 1889, and that was only ever supposed to be a temporary structure. But then it was such a beloved monument, they kept it. Can you imagine a world without the Eiffel Tower? These buildings might not be on that scale, but they are really impressive. And what's great is that some of the buildings are still being used today. For example, the Mexican Pavilion is part of the University of Seville. The Colombian Pavilion is actually now the Colombian Consulate, and the Moroccan Pavilion is the Department of Parks and Gardens for Seville.
In total, 25 of the 117 buildings built for the exposition are still standing, and they are all located in and around Parque María Luisa. But these buildings are only the beginning of what this stunning green space has to offer. Parque María Luisa is a 99-acre public park with landscape gardens, ornate fountains and beautiful architecture. We started our visit at the southern end of the park in the Plaza de América, a lovely square with a fountain surrounded on three sides by former exposition buildings.
Now, of course, not all of the pavilions built for the 1929 Expo relate to one country. For example, the pavilion behind me is the Mudahar Pavilion. Mudahar being, of course, the combination of Jewish, Islamic and Christian art.
At the centre of the park is the Jardín de los Leones, a peaceful corner with landscape flower beds, covered walkways and a fountain surrounded by 4 stone lion statues.
Even in the little corners of the park, there's something fabulous to look at. This beautiful vase here amongst the orange trees. It's an absolutely beautiful, tranquil place.
But one of my favourite features of the park, and actually the whole city, is Fuente de las Ranas.
This is something I always remember from my first visit to Seville, the Fuente de Ranas, the Fountain of the Frogs. And all the wonderful attractions here in Seville. My family always laugh when I say, this is what I want to see again, the Fuente de las Ranas. Absolutely beautiful fountain.
The next stop on our tour of the park was the Isleta de los Pájaros, an island surrounded by a pond where you'll find lots of wildlife. By starting at the southern end of the park, we've saved the best bit till last, the Plaza de España. This stunning square is yet another relic of the 1929 Ibero-American Exposition and has since become one of the most famous squares in Spain. Today, it's a great place to relax and soak in the mid-afternoon Seville sun.
And this is the Plaza de España. It's on the edge of Parque María Luisa, and this is the main pavilion built for the 1929 Expo. And it's, I mean, where do you start with this? And you can see the scene behind me. I mean, the 2 towers here that are on the edges of the plaza, in their own right, they will be a fabulous tourist attraction. Then in between them, you've got this whole building with ceramics representing all the different towns, cities and regions of Spain. You've got this wonderful water feature here, ceramic bridges spanning the water, people in boats at the bottom here. I mean, this is my favourite thing in Seville. It's an absolutely wonderful place, and I would say one of the best sites, best buildings, call it what you will, in the whole of Spain. And don't forget to come up the staircase to the second level for fantastic views of the plaza.
Spending half an hour exploring the Plaza de España was the perfect way to top off an afternoon in the Parque María Luisa. And after a brief rest back at our hotel, it was time to head to the Plaza de la Encarnación to see one of Seville's more modern offerings.
Now, Seville has lots of historic attractions, but it also has a fabulous modern attraction. Opened in 2011, Las Setas, or the mushrooms, also known as Metropol Parasol, is the largest wooden structure in the world. And it's great to look at from down here. As you can see, it's a really weird shape. But even better, you can take a lift up, go on top of the walkway and get great views all around. And that's what we're going to do now.
Las Setas was extremely busy on Saturday night. partly thanks to the mini Christmas fair taking place at the base of the building. Heading inside, we scanned our tickets and boarded the lift to take us up to the rooftop viewing platform. Tickets to visit the platform cost €16 for adults and €13 for 6 to 14-year-olds. The view from the roof of Las Setas is amazing. You can see all of Seville's other monuments, but the most prominent view is of Seville Cathedral and La Giralda, which looks magical at sunset.
It's a very popular time to come to the top of Las Setas at sunset, and for good reason. The sun's just dipping below the horizon up there. You can see it touching the rooftops of the buildings and all the towers in Seville. What a fantastic view.
While you take a lift up to the roof, you take the stairs down, passing by a small exhibit explaining the construction of Las Setas. The next stop of the night was for dinner, but beforehand, we just had enough time to see some of Seville's Christmas decorations lit up at night. It was extremely busy, so after our meal at Macaroni & Co, we headed back to the hotel for a drink at the rooftop bar. So down at street level tonight in Seville, wow, it's really busy. To be fair, it's Saturday night, the last Saturday before Christmas, but it's like a rock concert or coming out of a football match. You can hardly move on the street, so it was good to retreat to the roof space. I thought there won't be many people up there. Well, I was kind of wrong, because there's nobody else up here apart from us, unbelievably. I mean, there are so many little nooks and crannies and different levels you can sit on and just look out over the rooftops of Seville. The Giralda in the background there. What a fantastic feature of the hotel.
Good morning from Seville. Today we're going into the Real Alcázar first of all. Now we have tickets for 9:30. Well, you can already see the queue here is going round the corner. We got here about 10 past, quarter past. Definitely get here 15-20 minutes early, because even with tickets, massive queues for this place. It's a very popular attraction, and the earlier you get in, the less people and the more you can get good photos and appreciate the architecture and the gardens.
There are two separate queues, one for pre-booked tickets and one for those purchasing their tickets on the day. We always recommend booking your tickets in advance to ensure you get in, and you definitely don't want to miss the Real Alcázar. The Real Alcázar of Seville is a Moorish palace and gardens dating back to the 11th century. The intricacy of the Mudéjar architecture inside and the relaxing vibe of the expansive gardens make it a must visit on any trip to Seville. Tickets for the Real Alcázar cost €15.50, which is a great deal considering how long you can spend here. You enter the Alcázar via the Patio del León and the Patio de la Montera. From here, we recommend heading through the Mudéjar doorway straight to the Patio de las Doncellas.
This is the Patio Doncellas, and it's one of the most popular rooms within the Alcázar of Seville. And you can see why it's a beautiful long pool there. Everybody likes to queue up in the middle, and we've got a free room when we arrived, so I'm really pleased. Got some really good shots, but photographs aside, I mean, it's eye-popping Mudéjar detail all around, and the tiles at the bottom, it's absolutely beautiful.
Patio de las Doncellas is the highlight of the palace section of the Alcázar, and the earlier you get there, the more time you'll have to take in the view and get that perfect picture. The rooms directly off the patio are just as intricate, with every inch of the walls covered in the typical Mudéjar architecture of the Andalusia region. After spending about half an hour exploring the palace, we headed out into the Alcázar's gardens. Our first stop in the garden was the Grotesque Gallery, a thin raised walkway providing visitors with a bird's eye view of the rest of the gardens.
So out into the Alcazar Gardens, it's worth getting up onto the Grotesque Gallery, a thin passageway that takes you on a platform above the gardens. Get here early, it's not too busy. Get beautiful views over the gardens. You can see the Grotesque Gallery here, it runs all the way down here. What a superbly landscaped space, and the stonework and buildings around it make it a real magical fantasy-like garden. It's no wonder that the Game of Thrones producers decided to film here.
It will take you at least 1 hour to explore the gardens, meaning that, in total, you should plan to spend at least the entire morning at the Real Alcazar. There's also a cafe on site, so we chose to eat lunch at the Alcazar as well.
There's a very good cafe here at the Alcazar. You can see inside or outside, and the kind of things that you can get: drinks, tea, coffee, cappuccinos, some soft drinks, water, and what we had today. We've actually had 2 visits because we've been here so long. Had some empanada and some carrot cake, stuff like that. So you don't need to bring any food in. There's plenty of stuff here you can buy to keep you fueled for your day at the Alcazar. So this is the courtyard outside the Alcazar where we've come after our visit. You can see the Giralda in the background. But I wanted to summarise our experience of the Alcazar. It's the second time we've been here, and even though we've already been here once, but it's blown us away all over again. It's an absolutely superb must-do item if you're in Seville. So what is it? Well, basically it's an Islamic citadel. It's been developed over the years. So you've got 2 sides to it. You've got the inside where the Mudahar stylings and decoration in the rooms is absolutely eye-poppingly beautiful. And there's courtyards with reflection pools and the art all around it. It's just a stunning place to walk around and observe. Well, that's just the insides. Then you get out into the gardens. There are extensive gardens here at the Alcazar. Again, absolutely beautiful. Plenty of greenery, stonework, water features. You'll see colourful parakeets flying about. There's even ducks and a cat. And, the whole experience is just fabulous. It's hard. We keep saying how good it is in Seville. We were saying yesterday, the Plaza de España is the #1 experience. Well, maybe, because I think really how long you spend in the Alcazar, 3 or 4 hours you should put aside for it, and every bit of it is beautiful. It's a wonderful experience. Do not miss this, not only if you're in Seville, but if you're in anywhere in Andalusia.
After leaving the Alcazar, we took a few minutes to sit down and admire the views in the Plaza del Triunfo, which offers views of the Giralda, the Cathedral, the walls of the Alcazar, and the Archive of the Indies.
One of the impressive buildings alongside the Avenue de la Constitution is the Archive of the Indies, this building behind me here, and it's where a lot of the records dating back to the Spanish Empire are kept.
Our plan for the afternoon was to explore the Barrio Santa Cruz. The Barrio Santa Cruz is Seville's old Jewish quarter and is a maze of narrow streets lined with cafes, restaurants and souvenir shops. We found a really nice route through the neighbourhood, taking us from our hotel to our final stop of the afternoon, the Casa de Pilatos.
This is the Casa de Pilatos, a series of courtyards which we're looking forward to seeing. But I have to say, the walk through the Barrio Santa Cruz from our hotel to here, it's about 10 minutes, was absolutely beautiful. Some lovely streets with balconies and pastel painted buildings and a lovely church down one side street. And it's got a nice calm atmosphere, not the hustle and bustle of the main streets through Seville. It's kind of the back areas. It's really nice.
The Casa de Pilatos is a 15th and 16th century palace. We didn't visit on our last visit to Seville, but after seeing pictures online we decided it was worth the ticket price. Talking of tickets, they cost €12 to visit the ground floor, with an additional €6 to visit the top floor. We opted to visit the ground floor only, which was definitely worth it. The main courtyard is lined on all sides with stunning Mudéjar design. It was lovely to sit and admire the architecture, especially since it was almost deserted on a Sunday afternoon.
One of the significant things about the decoration of the Casa de Pilatos is the 150 different styles of azulejos, blue tiles. You see some behind me here, and they're all around the main courtyard. What else you can pick up from here is the Mudéjar decorations. Now the thing about the Casa de Pilatos is it's actually an Italian Renaissance style building which came after the original palace was built, but the people decided to keep the Mudéjar decoration in there, and you can see it all over here. And again, like everywhere else in Seville, it's absolutely beautiful.
In addition to the main courtyard, there are several rooms with ornate tiling to explore and a beautiful garden area at the back of the palace.
So I'm now going to try and sum up our trip to Seville. I want to start off by saying that our first ever city break was to Seville 6 years ago. And we've been around lots of other cities in Europe and always thought about, wow, that Seville trip was fantastic. But we always thought, well, were we kind of bigging it up or thinking it was better than it was because it was our first experience of seeing all these amazing things? But having travelled around Europe for the last 6 years and seen the best that Europe has to offer, I can now say that I still think Seville is the best city to visit, certainly in Europe. Let me try and explain why. I mean, to me, there are 3 headline attractions here in Seville that would grace the top of the chart in any other city in Europe. There's Seville Cathedral, which is one of the biggest in the world, and its bell tower, the Giralda, which of course dates from the previous mosque that was there. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful structure. What used to be the minaret and is now the bell tower, the Giralda. But also inside the cathedral, it's a cavernous cathedral. There's a beautiful golden altar, and Christopher Columbus is buried there as well. The second top level attraction is the Alcázar Palace, and it's a combination of a Moorish palace with amazing Mudéjar architecture inside. But then you step outside into the gardens, and you could spend a couple of hours walking around the gardens full of orange trees, peacocks, parakeets, great water features and topiary. It's a superb garden. And then the third top level attraction is the Plaza de España, which was built for the 1929 Iberian American Exposition. It's a huge plaza with 2 great towers, lots of tiled decorations around the outside and a great tiled roof. And it's absolutely awe-inspiring, standing in the middle there, looking around it, and it's got rowing boats going around it as well. It's an amazing place, and that's just the top 3. I mean, here, the Casa Pilatos, I mean, this is like a minor attraction in Seville. Any other city, this would be right near the top of the list. So, if you've never been to Seville, you should definitely come. Another thing I want to mention is the variety of attractions, because as well as all the older attractions, in 2011, the city built the CETAS, Metropol Parasol, the largest wooden structure in the world, and you can walk around it and see all over the city rooftops and take pictures of it. It's actually a stunning structure in itself. So have I done enough to convince you? It's certainly my favourite city that I've ever been to, and I think you should try it as well. Thanks for watching Rob on Holiday. We hope you found our guide to Seville useful. If you've got any comments, please put them in the box below. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed the video. It really helps our channel. And in the meantime, thanks for watching Rob on Holiday, and we'll see you next time.